There's a mistake young people make. It's assuming that the people who know the most about the future are the tutorial makers. Especially the ones who create tutorials on how to land interviews, how to get a job, how to learn the skill just to crack the job. The advice, the tips, the ways to think, it's all wrong. You follow them because you somewhat understand what they're doing. You somewhat understand the domain that they're in. You kind of know it, and they're giving you a clear path. It stops feeling random because someone's giving you a career path, someone's giving you a playlist. But real practitioners, something I've learned over the years, are not like that. They run strange experiments that very few people understand. They stay on top of new technology for which there aren't even mainstream jobs yet. Even terminology wouldn't have been created yet. But the masses, the people, they reject these experimenters. It's just too unrelatable. You don't understand what they're doing because it doesn't fit into the mold of being a job. It doesn't fit into the mold of being a freelancer. It's just very strange. Because you don't understand it yet, you take your anger out on these people. And I'm not talking about you people watching, I'm talking about generally the masses. I'll give you an example. 2 years ago, I made a video called, Yes, AI will take your creative job. This is quite a while ago, right? Now the world is different, we know this. I made that video because of the comments of a clip that went viral, a clip of me on some podcast that went viral. This was in May 2022, 2.5 years ago. I'll play the clip right now. First creative jobs are going to go. Do you know why?
Why?
Any AI that you create needs training data. अगर आप एक construction site पे जाओगे and take a video of the guy, laying bricks. With bricks, there's a lot of tolerance. I can have the brick like 2% down, 3% down, doesn't matter. I can have the cement. I have to create so many videos of it. We don't have that training data right now. But if you look at thumbnail designer, there is so much thumbnail data in the world right now. How many thumbnails have been created on YouTube, you tell me? Billions? I can just feed that entire data to an algorithm, order this by number of views the video has gotten, and I will get the ultimate thumbnail make. Because that data is available online. See, in September 2024, this is not some revolutionary thought that AI can do creative stuff. But back then, when we only had early DALL-E previews, which I had, it was considered a very inflammatory view. People were like, you don't understand anything about creativity. The comments were mostly people abusing me as usual, right? Telling me I don't know anything or whatever. Remember, at this time, I was already using the latest tools, which at that point was just DALL-E. I'd used the GPT API before it became popular as a chatbot. The open chatbot actually made it popular. But before that, you could actually use the API. People forget this. So that's when we had started experimenting. We actually made a simple wrapper to put GPT on WhatsApp. We actually realized that a lot of people were using it like an assistant. This was way before Meta announced AI on WhatsApp, by the way. But we knew it would die if it worked because it was inevitable. WhatsApp added an AI assistant. Like if it worked for us. Of course, WhatsApp's going to release one, right? It was just so useful for people. So we built more apps to keep experimenting. We're like, there's this Mark Zuckerberg thing, right? Which is if you're entering a new industry, don't get trapped doing something that ends up being a local maxima. Keep trying things and find out where there's real opportunity, where there's a big opportunity. I had a hunch that AI is better for creative tasks than accuracy-based tasks. So we built Alpha CTR with a fine-tuned model at that point on Stable Diffusion for thumbnails, for YouTube thumbnails. Remember in that video I said AI will replace thumbnail making? Well, the best way to predict the future is to build it. So we built it. We solved a lot of very interesting problems and learned a lot of the capabilities and limits of the thing. And of course, if you're building a tool, then you quickly come into what the limitations of the base models are. We quickly learned that face swapping is not enough. In fact, the face has roughly 3 parts, right? Features, texture, how your skin is, all the beard parts and all that, and structure. While swapping solves features and textures, structure needed something else. And there was this interesting model at that time called Dream Booth. You sort of fine-tune a model on your likeness through a lot of pictures of you. The only problem was that Dream Booth's outputs were good, but it wasn't great. So we were waiting for the next jump. A couple of years later, Flux LoRa's came out, and with a training run of just 1,200 steps, we were able to create this. Not just that, many of our thumbnails today are actually automated with minimal or no human touch-ups. This thumbnail was created with AI. At least a big chunk of the thumbnail was created with AI. And we knew this was possible 2 years ago because of our experiences with Stable Diffusion and then with Dream Booth. We had already experimented and only then made a prediction. We knew the thing that solves this will be similar to Dream Booth, but better. And that's exactly what it was. We just waited. Next, let's talk about agents. We knew the other interesting use case of AI is as an agent, where it does a bunch or series of tasks for you, it delegates tasks if necessary. I first saw this behavior with AutoGPT. So we built this tool called AutoCode Pro, which put ChatGPT or the GPT API in agent mode to write code. We did this with Chrome extensions first because there's no deployment headache. It was a choice we took. And you know what? It blew my mind. It somewhat worked. It wasn't perfect, but some of the things that it pulled off, I was like, this is so close to what a developer would do. We did a live stream on Overpowered showing these agents in action a long time ago. And guess what? Yet again, we got belted. Because Reddit didn't know the difference between GPT and an agent on GPT. Again, I got called names as usual. This seems to be a recurring habit with most people who are looking at a completely new domain where somebody is just running lots of experiments. Now 2 years later, Replit dropped their agent and it's really good. You see, our method is very painstaking. It's probably the hardest way to make predictions about the future because you have to run an experiment. You have to build a proof of concept, see how users use it, and then make predictions of whether users in the future will find this useful or not. It didn't come out of our... And as I'm telling you the story of what we've done over the last couple of years, this moment has a very important lesson. It has a very important point. Because we had learned one thing about agents, especially in the prompt. If you ask the agent, think carefully, step by step. Weirdly, it's just part of the prompt, right? Think carefully. Somewhat did better. In fact, asking the model to explain its reasoning to you, why are you doing things the way you're doing it? And then correcting it was a good way to use it. If you spend further time reading, you can figure out why. The Nobel Prize winner and psychologist Daniel Kahneman has a good theory for how the human brain works. He claimed that there were two systems in thinking, System 1 and System 2. System 1 is often described as operating automatically and quickly, with minimal effort. It relies on thumb rules and biases, allowing us to make rapid judgments and decisions based on patterns we've learned over time. For example, when you quickly recognize a familiar face in a crowd or instinctively react to a loud noise, you're using System 1. System 2, on the other hand, engages in more deliberate, you're thinking about it. It's more effortful thinking. It's used for tasks that require reasoning, analysis, critical thinking. When you solve a mathematics problem, or plan a detailed project, or evaluate the pros or the cons of a decision, writing code, whatever, you're engaging System 2. This mode is slower and more resource intensive, but essential for tasks that require careful consideration and logical analysis. System 1 is fast, System 2 is slow. System 2 requires a chain of thought. And when we were trying to build agents, what we realized, what we lacked, what we really wished the underlying model had was reasoning. This entire thing was reasoning. We needed a System 2. It wasn't thinking the entire problem through and only thinking one step ahead. If you think one step ahead, you don't make the best decisions. What GPT-o1, the new model that has just come out, really solves is System 2. In their blog post, they state, we've developed a new series of AI models designed to spend more time thinking before they respond. They can reason through complex tasks and solve harder problems than previous models in science, coding, and math. Through training, they learn to refine their thinking process, try different strategies, and recognize their mistakes. In our tests, the next model update performs similarly to PhD students on challenging benchmark tests in physics, chemistry, and biology. We also found that it excels in math and coding. In a qualifying exam for the International Mathematics Olympiad, GPT-4o correctly solved only 13% of problems, while the reasoning model scored 83%. What a jump. And if you use the model, sure enough, it is doing some reasoning. And the reasoning is pretty good. Enough to solve JEE chemistry problems. Not only is this enough to give it a big boost to solving math problems, but it is also enough to take coding to new heights. What we had learned with AutoCode Pro, the base model needed a replacement. This seems to be really good. Remember Devin? The thing that people were calling a scam because it wasn't solving some coding problems? Well, Devin at the time had already stated that their end-to-end completion rate, it was 13 or 14% or something like that. They'd already admitted that it wasn't anywhere near perfect.
It's a really hard problem, and we've only just started. But we're super excited about the progress that we've made so far.
But people still chat on them. Look at Devin's scores now. This is what it is with O1 as the base model. Look, coding as we know it is going away. I've said this so many times, I keep getting attacked for it, but I'll say it again. Coding is going away at some point, which is the manual process of writing code. And remember, coding is two parts. One is actually thinking about the problem and thinking about how you'll solve the problem. The second part is actually typing the code to solve the problem. The second part is going away, and maybe some parts of the first part. Engineers will move up one role and become managers. When I spoke to Imad from Stable Diffusion, he said that this new role, created by these new agents, is getting good. It's going to be the manager of the agent. Very similar to the manager of people.
When you look at how the React engineers operate, they're not writing the React code directly, They're using libraries. So again, they've had a level up already.
Like any manager at any company. And English, communication, knowing how to diagnose problems, unblock those things, sales, these things become more important than just being smart. Yet, people are sitting on the internet and fighting about DSA courses. It's like, are you guys blind? You have to understand these new models change what it means to do work, especially in software. It's kind of obvious. Like, my personal opinion on this is AI advancements are going to force people to focus more on the outcomes and just not on the inputs. If someone can build an entire app in a couple of days, then the only way to play is to use the same technology, build it in similar time frame, but now get users and revenue. Playing a smaller role, being a small part of a big team, building a behemoth, big app, may phase out over time if it's trivial to build the entire app, which forces all of us to now find ways to get users and make revenue. I know it sounds scary because now you're responsible for the actual outcome. Now you actually have to make money to make money. And I'll explain what make money to make money means. Today you make money off a stable salary where your company might be making money in bursts on every transaction or whatever, right? Now you'll get paid when the transaction happens because you are now much more responsible for the outcome. It sounds scary, but it has been the truth of humanity. Outside of the last 200 odd years, it's always been like this. Farmers are not graded on what crazy farming technique or which farming framework they used, but on whether the crop quality was edible. Almost all job roles were self-employment or apprenticeship, except the army and court roles, like the government roles of today. And all of these roles were judged on end produce. No hiding at a larger org and then blaming the organization if the business fails. Yet, knowing all this, knowing that this was the nature of things, you somewhat know this. You still spend all your energy solving DSA to get a job. I get it if you're actually picking up DSA to actually improve your own skills or improve at life. Sometimes that can be very valuable. Solving problems also improves the brain. But you're doing it for a job that won't exist in the way you think it will in 5 years. O1, the new model, is already better than 93% of people on code forces. Why will people pay for this skill if it's free to solve really hard technical problems? Because OpenAI is planning to put out an O1 release for free to the public in the future. The weirdest thing is people complaining about me becoming a content creator in the last couple of years, right? Because a lot of people are like, oh, you were an engineer for 10 years, then you suddenly transitioned full-time and being a content creator or whatever. I made this decision 2 years ago because I was running a software company and realized features were getting commoditized. I was actually in the shoes of somebody running a software company. So we'd hire engineers to solve some problems from scratch to maybe make an entire, let's say, 1,000-man streaming room. But then companies like Mux came out and said, well, you can just use us inside your own platform and offer this to customers. The customer doesn't care whether you built it from scratch or whether you use third-party tools, as long as it solves a problem that they're willing to pay for. When we built a feature, a competitor copied that feature in a week, and then we started doing the same thing to them. So we started asking ourselves, what the is the moat? What is our defense? And it was starting to dawn on me then that it started to become purely about customer discovery, trust, and the customer's love. But mainly, it was about customer discovery. It was about creating distribution. So I pivoted my life. Very hard decision for me, but I had to pivot my life. I said, I'm still going to use technology, but I'm going to use it to focus on building distribution. That seems to be a moat where even if content gets automated, the followers, trust, and love that you create is still valuable. I said to my team, and I remember this, that I'm going to use AI to create software to solve problems instead of using it to sell software per se. So even if I build a tool instead of selling it for $9, we'll actually focus on creating the end thing. And we kept experimenting with that goal, our goal of using this to create distribution. And that's where the thumbnail thing came from as well. And in Feb 2023, I put out a tweet. We used this open source Wave to Lip repository and someone else's voice and dubbed my video and matched my lips with it. This is a very, very early version, and of course it wasn't great. But to me, I was like, if I wait 2 years on this is gonna get good. Same thing like we did with, images. Again, common people said, this is stupid, nobody will watch AI generated content. I bet you thought this as well. But the minute we did that and we saw the output, we're like, there is going to be a time where people don't care so much. This is a prediction we made. Fast forward 1 year, 5 months later from that tweet, we did 51 million global views on Instagram last month and another 15 million views on YouTube, with 25% of this audience coming from abroad. The best part is that for many of those videos, it's not actually me presenting, it's an AI avatar that we've spent a long time fine-tuning and perfecting, both the audio as well as the video.
This is Varun Maya. He's averaging 25 million views per month, but the quality's so damn good, most will never realize that it's not actually Varun.
We have the fastest news to video workflow in the world today, with an AI avatar doing the heavy lifting. All the models are other people's, but we fine-tuned some of them to get the results we wanted. It's got an automated voice, and we combined this with a manual editing team because we knew that video editing wasn't going to get automated. We had tried. And you know what would be really valuable if you're making a lot of videos like this and you really need a video editing team to get this to happen? A video editing cohort would be extremely valuable. In fact, We now do Gen AI services specifically in content and general content services for a lot of companies. Here are some of the customers we have worked with in the B2B element for the last 6 months alone. And now suddenly Twitter is changing its tune. Let me read this tweet that's popular today. It's by Arib. My hypothesis on the future of software. Billion-dollar SaaS companies are cooked. Marginal cost of building software products is going to zero. In the next 2 years, we'll be able to build any SaaS tool I need. Need a CRM? Prompt 1, 2, 3, it's made. Blah, 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 blah. And then he says, TBH, the real winners are going to be the content creators. As number of products increase, number of companies competing for the same markets and creators increase, increasing the value of creators. The oil of today is attention. But it'll be the diamonds of tomorrow. And that's exactly what I've been saying for 2 years. And now suddenly, it's so much cognitive dissonance for the masses. Distribution? I thought this was some lame content creator and marketing type thing. Sales? I have to talk to people? That wasn't in syllabus, but it was always true. The guy selling DSA courses was successful not because of his or her skill at writing code or their skill at teaching. They were successful because of distribution. You misattributed why they were doing well. They were doing well because they were reaching you, not because they were teaching you. It was clear all along. Their revenue, lifestyle, etc. It was all because of distribution. But you took the wrong message away. You thought it was about skill. That's why they're doing more and more successful in life. It's because people knew them. People were able to see them on screen. And therefore, they got more business. They got more traction. They got more customers. Look, I'm the first to admit I'm not always right. And things change. For example, in Pyjama Profit, the book I wrote in 2018, we had an entire chapter about how robots will take your job. Far before ChatGPT. Just so you know, I've been covering OpenAI since 2017, 2018 on an old Facebook page that I've had. So I've been keeping up with their early research, just like I'm keeping up with robotics now, but not making much content about it because it's not so exciting to the end user and it's not time yet. But I'll tell you one thing that I was right about, but then wrong about. Pyjama Profit was about remote work. That's why it's called Pyjama Profit. Pajamas, at home. This was much before the pandemic, so remote work wasn't mainstream. And of course, after pandemic, remote work became mainstream and we were right again. But I didn't realize how much remote work slows down company when you actually mass implement it. Because there was no way for me to know what would happen if you mass implemented this. It's fine to do remote work after you're a very successful company and doing the same thing every day. But if you're shipping new products and features or specifically entering new markets or pivoting, it is very bad. So I was wrong not in predicting the macro trend of maybe remote work will be a thing, but I didn't have the wisdom to see it play out fully because I'd written this before the pandemic and we had never seen full remote work actually play out to realize it's actually not a great thing for companies. Prediction was right, but I changed my mind now because of new evidence. But I think that prediction will be wrong in 4 or 5 years. Of course, experienced companies that have already figured out product market fit, they will continue to work remote, but it's not going to work for early stage companies. So I have the humility and nuance, and it takes a lot of humility to do this, to change my opinions as I gain more evidence. But the main secret is not even about changing your opinions as more evidence comes. The secret is to not listen to the masses. And right now, you are listening to the masses. And they're saying, keep studying this thing and doing the same thing. Everything will be the same as it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago. It probably won't. And you feel it somewhere in your gut and you're like, no, but the masses are saying it's going to be like this, so I should follow them. You know, the only difference between the last 2 years and the last 10 years of my life, why the last 2 years have really taken off, maybe the last 1.5 years have really taken off, it's mostly because I stopped listening to other people. It's a really hard thing to say, it's a really hard thing to implement, right? You have really successful people you work with saying, no, this won't work, don't do this is stupid. And still pushing past that, knowing that you have their disapproval. It is really hard. And when you're doing it publicly as a content creator and you're saying something and then everyone's shouting at you in the comments and you're like, okay, am I wrong? You think about it every night. You're like, do I still give this opinion out knowing that everyone hates me for this opinion? Or people think I'm completely wrong and I'm a bozo, I'm an idiot. But if you listen to your gut, and that's the only thing that's changed in the last 1.5 years, which is I've stopped listening to everybody else. I'm like, this is what the experiment I've run tells me. This is the evidence. And this is what I should bet on. This is what I shouldn't bet on. Here's how it plays together. And if you do that, you end up doing a little bit better for yourself. And in the last 1.5 years, we've done reasonably well. So my main advice is I think you should stop listening to the masses, to the industry, to the experts, whatever it is. You should not even listen to this video. You should run your own experiments. What has actually worked for you in life, whatever it is. It could be completely different from what I say. I could end up being completely wrong for your circumstance and your life. But you need to look at it and be like, what is the experiment that I can run? Small experiment. Does it work? Do I like this? Should I be doing this? And then make the decision on should you do that for a career? Should you learn that? Should you invest time in that? And even if there are people telling you you're wrong, you're making a mistake, blah, 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 don't listen to them. Especially in masses, something happens to the human brain. And I think the collective IQ drops or something like that, or we become completely frozen to new ideas. And that's point one, right? Which is run your own experiments, make your own decisions based on those experiments. Nobody can solve life for you. The second thing is that you probably will have to think more like a manager, and you probably have to start taking responsibility for outcomes. If you do those two things, I think you'll be fine. It's scary. I can't now just charge a company money for a skill. I can't just say, look, I'm really good at this. I passed the interview. Give me money. I now have to create outcomes. I know I'm responsible, like the salesperson, right? Now you feel, the engineer now feels the salesperson's plight, which is the salesperson actually has to close something every day or every week or whatever the customer or company demands. And if he or she doesn't, they lose their job. Now the same for everybody. You can't now say on Twitter that, see, I am very good at this, I know this, and not prove it. You have to actually build at least one thing. You will be wrong many times. Lots of the things that you build will fail. It's happened to me, but you have to be right at least once, and that's when you start doing well. There are people now who have worked at unprofitable companies for years, probably a decade, right? Gone from one unprofitable company to another unprofitable company. That era is probably going to come to an end. And then the truth will become important once again. Not what you think is true, but the truth. No, I feel this way emotionally, so it's correct. That's over. I felt like that, I fought with that, and I'm like, yo, if customers want something, I'm nobody to fight it. I can't swim against the river. Because outcomes don't care about intent or how you feel or how hard you work. Or that laborer would be richer than Warren Buffett. Outcomes care about whether your insights are correct. If my insights about AI plus content were wrong, I would have failed. Every successive try I've had in my life, and I've tried many times, I've had several bad years, some good years, but every successive try I've had in my life has been with much more honesty, not just about myself, but about what customers really want. And I still make mistakes. Some of my experiments still don't work out. It's part of the game. And you need to learn that. And if I fail again, I will come back, I'll sharpen my sword again and give people even more of what they really want. That's why you must try and fail to sharpen that sword. Because otherwise you have opinions about whether to learn this or do that are untrue. You haven't even tested them. And the more you hope that other people on the internet give you these paths, I really don't think it's going to work. That's why I titled this video in a way where you would think this video is a path, but actually I probably left you slightly more confused, but in my opinion on the right path. So I know I went on a bit of a tangent, but in the world of rapidly advancing AI, try to figure out what people truly want. The thing can now reason, the thing can write, the thing can really help you, right? But your insights need to be correct. You need to be the manager who knows the market well, and that will really help. That's how you actually make money. Not what you wishfully think customers want, but what they really want. Then you use the tool, you use AI to make that, and use your network or whatever distribution you end up building to sell it. It's a very exciting time if you want to build stuff and sell it. And as always, chart your own path. It's your story to write, not mine, not anybody else's. Good luck. Bye.